Is this not an exceptional circumstance which would have been allowed by the rules?
No, not at all. I mean, this really is behaviour which I think most people would find quite extraordinary. We face a situation that we've been told by the government that we must obey the rules, and at this time, it was about staying at home, it was about protecting the NHS and saving lives. We were not supposed to engage in any non essential travel, and indeed, the Prime Minister had gone on national television and told us that we should be protecting grandparents, that they shouldn't be looking after grandchildren. Dominic Cummings really has to accept his responsibilities for what he's done in breaking lockdown and should resign. But there are also questions for the Prime Minister because we now know that figures in Downing Street knew about this. So my questions to the Prime Minister is, when did you know about this? Did you sanction it? Why haven't you taken action against Dominic Cummings earlier? And if Dominic Cummings won't do what is the right thing and resign, then the Prime Minister has to show leadership and he should be telling him that he has to go. We've faced a situation that other figures in public life, Neil Ferguson, and of course in Scotland, Catherine Calderwood, had to go because they broke lockdown rules. But this is a man that knew what he was doing, that travelled 250 miles. And of course, we also know in this issue of the cover up that his wife, Mary Wakefield, wrote articles explaining how Dominic Cummings was isolating at home. We now know that this was very far from the truth. It simply isn't acceptable. And let's not forget, this is the Prime Minister's closest advisor that has had a significant impact in developing the policy and the rules that the rest of us are living by. And it does create the impression that there's one law for the rich and powerful and there's another law for the vast bulk of the people living in the United Kingdom. It's not right. It's not acceptable. Dominic Cummings.
Forgive me, but you've got to be careful before jumping the gun on this, don't you, till we get the full details. Because on the 23rd of March at the briefing, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer did say that if you were seeking childcare whilst you were ill, that is classed as an exceptional circumstance.
Well, you have to look at what is proportionate. And the simple fact of the matter is that definition of what is acceptable doesn't involve driving 250 odd miles. And also the specific guidance that the Prime Minister had given that grandparents, elderly relatives had to be protected, and they most certainly shouldn't be looking after grandchildren. So I'm afraid that won't wash. And, we've had the situation that other leaders in the Conservative Party, not least Jackson Carlaw in Scotland, said that there can't be one rule for bosses and another for everyone else. I think Jackson Carlaw is quite right. Dominic Cummings, quite simply, has to go, and he should go right now.
So what should have been done under those circumstances then, if you've got a couple who are both ill with COVID-19, or so they suspected, and don't feel they're able to look after their young child? What should they have done?
But of course, arrangements have to be put in place, but it's not for me to tell Dominic Cummings what he should be doing for his childcare arrangements. But I would respectfully suggest that driving 250 miles isn't acceptable, and certainly going to visit grandparents of the children isn't acceptable, and he knows that. This is about what's right and what's wrong, and that's the judgment that people up and down the United Kingdom will be making today. That here we have an individual right at the heart of government, an individual who is devising the rules that the rest of us have to follow, has willfully broken those rules.